Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brave and the Boys with your host Jordan, talking about something that we don't normally talk about here on this channel, which are floppies or comics that are currently coming out. And on this episode, I did want to talk about DC's big blockbuster event that's halting all their other comics from coming out right now, which is Night Terrors. Let's get into that video right now.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom.
DC Night Terror. What this is a big blockbuster event by DC that is currently putting all of their comics on pause as of right now. So, for instance, there is no new Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman coming out until the next, I think September actually. It's going to be when our comics start up again. Now, we are still getting like a Batman, Superman, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, still getting a bunch of issues, but they're all set to be tie-ins into the main event, which seems like some tie-ins matter and some tie-ins don't matter, and I'll touch on that briefly. Now, as far as it goes, if you are reading just the main event, the first comic you want to start with is going to be the Dawn of DC Night Terror. This one is going to be from the free comic book day, which you should still be able to buy online for free, or pick up like a few dollars here and there aftermarket. It shouldn't be very hard to find. The first book in the event that's not the free comic book day is going to be Night Terror's First Blood. This builds up the event itself. First Blood is going to introduce our main villain of the series and the premise of what's happening, which is the new character called Insomnia is going through the DC universe, Earth Prime, to find the Nightmare Stone, which, why is he trying to find it? Who is he? What's his motives? You're going to have to read to find out. I ain't going to spoil that here. It's a brand new comic. After that, which it is a number one, there is another number one, and I think this is what makes the event a little confusing, but your next book to read in the main series is going to be Dawn of DC Night Terror number one. Now, this is technically the first book in the event. This is where the event will continue, so we will have a number 1, 2, 3, and it'll end on 4 with, I believe, an epilogue issue, which is Night Terror Night's End, which sounds almost like a previous DC event that came out a few years back. Now, mixed into these main titles, we do have some supplements or some tie-ins, which, like I said, some of them do make sense on why they are tie-ins, and others just seem like the author wanted to write a story, which, cool, but it feels like there's a lot of filler. Now, the ones that I've read, I've only read 2 so far, which I have right here, Night Terror Batman, which this is one that I would say is, it's relatively important to read. And then Night Terror Poison Ivy, which feels like it has no purpose, but it's still a pretty cool horror story, and I still enjoyed reading it actually, even though it doesn't really tie into the event. How do they tie in? How does it make sense? So I'll give an example for the Batman one, and it's not really a major spoiler, but if you don't want to see this, skip to my next chapter and you won't get spoilers. But as far as it goes in the DC Free Comic Book Day, it does set up this event very briefly by Damian having a nightmare, which he typically doesn't because he's very in control of his body, his mind, his dreams. He's just been trained for years and doesn't really have to worry about having those kind of issues. But he has a nightmare, and it's kind of like an ever-ending nightmare, or never-ending nightmare, I should say. And that is further explored in Batman number 1. You have the main issue, and then you have a supplement at the very end of it that kind of brings up Damian and how important he is going to be to this event. And really quickly, while I'm on the topic of Batman, I did want to bring up, and this is because I've read and seen Chainsaw Man. Tell me this is not heavily inspired by Chainsaw Man. We have at the very bottom of issue 1, and you'll see it more if you read it, a bat with a gun for a face. That's Chainsaw Man, right? Like, he's a human with a chainsaw for a face. 100% parallel. I don't know. Let me know if that's what you think too, but hey, that's what I'm thinking. Who are our big characters to this event, right? So our major characters, we have Boston Brand, which is Deadman, and he seems to be the leading guy for this since he's been in every main issues except for the Free Comic Book Day one. Boston Brand, also known as Deadman, was a circus performer, kind of similar to the Graysons actually. He was more of a daredevil in general, just because they didn't know if he was going to live or die or not. And then he was murdered during his performance, and as he states, that was his greatest performance. And he has to find his killer, and because of that, he cannot move on to heaven, hell, or whatever dimension DC has set up for that. Now, Boston's a pretty cool character. He's not seen very often. You typically see him more on the mystical side of DC, so like Batman Damned is a good representation of him. He has his own series written by this person here. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've heard it's phenomenal. So far, the event's pretty cool, and I've really been enjoying it because it's bringing in this sense of horror into DC Comics, which we haven't really seen very much. We've seen serious DC, we've seen rock and roll metal DC, and now we're seeing a horror side of DC, which I think is pretty cool, and some of these issues definitely play with it very well. Favorite one so far is the Poison Ivy one. Reason being is, even though this doesn't have major connections to the series, I really enjoyed the horror aspect of it, and the end of the first issue is super creepy. All of these issues, all the tie-in issues, will have 2 issues in total. You have a number 1, and then in August you'll have a number 2. They're putting out a lot of issues. I think that's the biggest problem with the event right now. If it was a little bit more coordinated on what you should read and when, I think it would definitely help out. Just to give an example of how many issues there will be, I have the Free Comic Book Day opened up, and through here you can kind of see, oh my god, there's a lot. It's split up into 2 months, so you have July, which are going to be all our number 1s, and then Night Terror 1 and 2, which we have next week, Night Terror number 2, and then we have August, which is going to be the rest, the other half of the event. You do not need to buy every single one of these books to enjoy this event. I think I'm going to pick up the Harley Quinn and Catwoman issue when they come out, either this week or next week, and that's about it for me. I will pick up the end of the event just because I'm curious now. How is it going to wrap up, and how they're going to tie this back into the main issues that we've been reading and that are on break right now. Alrighty everyone, that's gonna wrap up kind of what you have to read, how did the tie-ins work, as well as how I've been enjoying this event so far. Now I do want to hear from you guys down below on what have you been reading. Have you read the event? Have you read any of the tie-ins? Are you just skipping this all together and waiting until they start back up again for the regular issues? Let me know, I'm really curious. And let's move on to something a little bit more fun and involved, which is picking a winner from that video over there, which is my 5 comic book challenge on what's most important to me. I did say I was going to give away volumes 3 and 4 from Tom King's Batman run, and I haven't done that. I definitely should have done that like 2 weeks ago, but hey, better late than never, and you guys had extra time to submit your entries, so let's go pick a winner for that right now. Alrighty, so I have my list already made. I have 1 through 5 for everybody. The only thing I gotta do now is hit this generate button and it'll pick a winner. So let's see. I know there's an easier way. I know I'm making more complex on myself. It's only 5 entries, I don't care. And number 1, which number 1 is Tony B8696, which, hey Tony, congratulations, man. Reach out to us on one of our links down below, Instagram, Twitter. It should be at Braveboys, which I will put right here just in case. And that way I can get your information and have them shipped out to you. Tony, if for some reason you do not claim your prize, I will pick a new winner. I will give you 1 week from this published date. So reach out to us, please. And one additional shout out to whoever bought me holding a lightsaber shirt, because I don't even own one of those yet. So hey man, you give me your info and I'll give you a shout out on this show. So thank you, always appreciate it, guys. Alright everybody, that's gonna wrap up this video for today. If you really enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing. We've been putting out
more than just talking about singles, floppies. We have reviews, overviews, hauls. Check us out. We really enjoy doing this kind of content. Like this video. It really makes me feel good about myself that I'm making content that you guys like. And keep reading. Stay bold.